recording it via Zoom. And so the recording that I do on Zoom will just be of me. It won't be of everybody, but the recording that stays within the app will be everyone. And then what I will send out to everyone will be just the recording of me. So you don't have to worry about being on those recordings beyond the community ending. I find that just sometimes helps for people to feel good asking questions or showing different things if they want to. All right, but anyone have anything in particular, anything they have questions about or want to get into it all before we start moving? Okay, so today's, I'm going to lower down. We're going to come down onto the floor. Today's goal is for us all to find a position or a movement or an exercise where we feel our pelvic floor moving and we can feel airflow. And so oftentimes we end up in position. So if I kind of show you inside of this pelvis, right, next to the sort of back pockets of our pelvis are kind of representing the back parts of our pelvic floor. And then in the front half of our pelvis is sort of where our vaginal opening is and your urethra is in kind of that front half. So when I say things like, can we feel air into our back pockets? I'm talking about this sort of gutter space between our sacrum in the middle and our pelvis on the outer edge. And we'll go into details about how to feel that. I may also say things like feel air going into your anus, right? Because we want to see, can we get some lengthening in the back of those pelvic floor muscles so that we can allow the muscles at the front of our pelvic floor to do their job appropriately. So I think a really big misnomer and something that I really always want to work hard to help people understand is that whether you have overactivity or underactivity, chances are you have both and the other, right? Like you have all of those things. And so we have to understand maybe where are things weak and why are they weak, and where are things overactive and why are they overactive, and how can we get better balance and communication between all of those different areas. And our breathing and our nervous system really helps us be able to tune into that. So as we go through things today, if you're not feeling something that I'm telling you should feel, that's okay. That's telling us information about your body and maybe where you hold tension or where maybe things need a little extra support. And so all of these sessions are almost like little self-assessments of, I'm definitely holding a lot of tightness in this area. And as we go through the weeks and the classes, that'll help you kind of put together what your own body needs more and more. Okay, so enough chatting. Let's start down on the floor. We're gonna just sit back to our heels if we have that mobility available to us. If not, you can kind of boost yourself up with pillows, and we're gonna just start by kind of resting our hands on our rib cage, and let's just take a few breaths here. Just noticing, where does our air go? Do we feel like we're pulling that air in with our neck? Do we feel like we're pulling that air in to our abdomen? Do we feel like we're tightening to pull that air in? And you don't have to change anything right now. We don't have to change it. We're just paying attention and noticing. If you're sitting on something or even just sitting on the floor, can you feel air make its way down into your pelvis, right? So I'm sitting on this bolster. Can you feel some pressure coming down? We're not bearing down into that. We're not forcing air into that. But can we sense almost like a little bit of letting go as we breathe in there? And if you can't, you're normal. Okay, if you can, fantastic. If you can't, don't worry about it. We're just checking in as to where we are right at this moment, and we're not trying to change it, we're not trying to force it. So then from here, let's put our hands on our lower ribs. And I want you to just take a nice breath of air in. And then we're gonna slide our hands down the fronts of our thighs as we blow out. And we're gonna kind of roll forward, trying to find our hands on the floor, index finger down. And we're gonna bring our shoulders away from our ears. So my own little self-reminder. And then we're gonna bring our head forward looking out. We're gonna take a nice breath of air in here. And just seeing if we can get a little bit more air expansion into our back body. And then as we blow out, can we feel, maybe we push our hands into the floor, and as we push our hands into the floor, the ribs come back. Inhale, expand into back body. Good. Maybe you notice some air into your pelvis, maybe you don't, and that's okay. I want you to focus more on feeling rib cage moving, open in the back, and closing in the front. Next, let's grab, if we have like a pillow or a blanket, even like a yoga block. Look, yoga block's a little hard, but I would say like a blanket or ball, and we're gonna put that blanket or ball into our belly. And I'm gonna take this out just because it was still better to me. But you could be absolutely sitting something. And we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna roll forward, but this one we're gonna keep going, and we're gonna rest our elbows on the ground. So what we're doing here is we're blocking off our belly, and you're still going to be able to breathe in and out, but it might feel like we're restricting how much you can breathe in, right? Because we're sort of blocking that air from being able to go into your belly. And I just want you to go really slowly, seeing, can you really slowly breathe into your nose and put the air somewhere else. So we're not going to let that air push into belly. And maybe it's not quite as deep of a breath. Maybe it's a really small in-breath. But then we're going to really focus on elongating our exhale. And maybe feeling our ribs and abdomen kind of pulling away from that pillow or bolster a little bit. Then another nice little breath in. And as you breathe here, you should gradually start to feel like you can get a little bit more air without cheating or compensating with that neck. A few more breaths here. Good. Next, we're going to grab either a yoga block, we're going to stay kneeling, we're going to either grab a yoga block or a ball. And I'm going to put that ball between my knees. Okay, so I'm not crushing it between my knees. I'm just holding it in between my knees. And I'm going to move my blanket, and I'm going to just come up into all fours. Good. So I've got that ball in between my knees. And I'm going to picture the same thing like I did when I was kneeling. I'm going to take a breath of air in. And I'm going to exhale, rolling my elbows forward and dropping those elbows down to my the floor. And imagining that pillow is there in my belly. And encouraging that opening in those back ribs, encouraging that side body opening. Maybe sensing and feeling that gutter space. Can we sense and feel as we breathe in? On the inhale, we're letting all of these muscles go. Good. A little bit of inner thigh, maybe pressing into your ball or block, not crushing it. Good. 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 Let's rock back to our heels, elbows in, maybe no blanket this time. And just see as we go, are we creating a little bit more space in areas maybe where we didn't have space. Can any of you feel that motion of air into back body and down into those back pockets? Thumbs up, thumbs down, can feel it, can't feel it, can feel it, good, good, nice. Sort of, maybe, yeah, and it's okay for that to be a maybe, it's okay for that to be a no, okay? Yep, okay, so then let's flip over onto our backs. And I really like to use laying on our back as a really nice sort of self-assessment as to where we are. So if we just lay on our backs, I want you to just take note of what you feel on the floor. Can you feel your feet? Can you feel your pelvis? Can you feel your back? Can you feel your upper ribs? Can you feel your shoulder blades and your head? And so what I feel in my body right now is I feel like I've got a little arch in my low back. And if I put my hands on my rib cage in the front, I feel like there's maybe a little bit of tension kind of pulling those ribs up toward the ceiling. So what we're going to do throughout the next few movements is we're going to see, can we change how that feels? And then we'll come back to this and we'll use this as our little gauge. So I'm going to just roll up here. So our pelvic tilt has two parts, okay? It has a pelvis part and it has a ribcage part. So I'm a good pelvic tilter, but can you see how my ribcage is still really up toward the ceiling? And what we want this ribcage and this diaphragm to learn how to communicate with this pelvis. And so oftentimes we maybe have to do less with our pelvis and maybe a little more with our ribs, but that's via exhalation. That's via blowing out. We're not doing that via like forcing that rib cage down. So I want you guys to just rest with your hands on your lower ribs here. And we're going to take a nice breath of air into your nose. And you're going to just blow out all the way. If you have some pressure issues and you feel like when you blow out with your pursed lips, that you maybe create a little bit of pressure, I want you to just breathe in through your nose. And we're going to try. But the key is that as you're doing your ha, you're holding it as long as you can until all that air is out. You're going to pause for a few seconds at the end of your exhale, whether it's a ha or a, and then we're going to take a breath of air in. And I want you to imagine as you breathe in that your body is elongating, but we're not pinging up toward the ceiling. If that makes sense. So I want you to think about these side bodies elongating, back body elongating. Good. 4. Good. I'm just feeling the rise and fall of those ribs. And the movement of your rib cage, not thinking about this pelvis, pelvic floor yet. Good. Okay, then we'll take our pillow or a blanket. And we're gonna I'm gonna fold mine maybe just a little bit. And I'm gonna put it underneath my pelvis. And then we're going to take a good breath of air in. We're gonna ha or blow. And we're gonna bring our knees up toward our chest, and you can grab in front of your knees, or you can grab behind your knees. So when we pull those knees up to our chest, we're trying to see, can we create a little bit more space here in the back? And we're gonna just breathe in through our nose, quiet, pause. And the most difficult thing here is often the pause, right? I'm talking a lot, so I'm kind of in a state of inhale. My body really wants to breathe in. I want you to just pause here. Wait, wait, wait. Do not breathe in yet. Do not breathe in yet. Do not breathe in yet. Then tongue goes to the roof of your mouth. And then you're going to try to breathe in. And see if you can sense some of that back pocket lengthening on that inhale. Hold it out. Hold it out. Hold it out. Then good breath in. Hold it out. Hold it out. Hold it out. Tongue to the roof. Breath in. Good. And then relaxing down. So we're going to bring our feet back down. I'm going to leave this little towel underneath the back of my pelvis. And then we're going to reach both of those arms forward. So that was, we were bringing that pelvis under. We were being mindful of our rib cage. Here, what we're going to do is we're going to reach those arms to the ceiling. We're going to take a good breath of air in. We're going to exhale. Imagine someone's pulling your arms to the ceiling, but your head is staying down. So we're not bringing head and arms up. We're thinking about bringing our reach, and see how when I reach those arms forward, it's helping bring those ribs down with a ha or a s. We're going to keep reaching, keep reaching, keep reaching. Breathe in and keep reaching, and then keep reaching, keep reaching, keep reaching. Pause, come up. Reaching, reaching, reaching. Pause. Breath in. And then out. Who can feel their ab muscles working a little bit there? Yeah, good. I'm going to take a little break. We're going to just relax back down flat. Noticing what do you feel in contact with the floor? Does everything feel like it's sort of softening down into the floor a little bit better now? Good. And then let's bring our feet together and our knees together. And both of our arms up toward the ceiling. And now we're going to put the top part of our body and our lower part of our body together a little bit more. So as you breathe in, your knees are going to rotate to the left and your arms are going to rotate to the right. But I want you to think about maintaining contact with your back into the floor gently. So we're going to breathe in, feeling a little twist in your system, but it's connected. That makes sense. And then you're going to blow out. Knees are going to go to the right. Arms are going to go to the left. Good. Feeling connection across that midline of your body. Inhale. Arms right, knees left. Exhale across. Pressure through your heels is sort of keeping your pelvis from tipping forward, and the reaching of those arms, keeping active. One. Good. And then relaxing down. Taking a few breaths here. Noticing, are we getting a little more contact with the floor? Are we settling in? Okay. So then let's roll onto our sides. Good. And we're going to take either a bolster or a towel or a pillow, and we're going to put this under our left side. Going to go just below kind of on those lower ribs on that left side. We're going to bring those knees up towards your chest. And we're going to get a little hands-on with ourselves here. So I want you to just take your hand in kind of an L shape, and you're going to just rest that on the top of your right hip crest. And then I'm going to have you press your left hip into the floor. And you're going to try to reach your right hip away from your body. And so we want to do that without an archy back. So it's tempting to let that back arch if you take that hip away from you. But I want you to think, we're not clamping this down, we're elongating that tailbone down, pressing the left hip down and reaching. I'll show you kind of that. So I'm pressing my left hip into the floor, and I'm reaching this right side long, and I'm keeping my lower back nice and soft and relaxed. And then we're going to breathe in and try to see if you can breathe into this right side. And if it feels like it's really restricted and really tight in there, you can absolutely take your hands and do a little bit of sort of self-release work in there. Good. Thinking about pressing that left hip down into the floor, reaching that right hip away. Breathing into this right side. I'm going to reach that right arm out overhead. The pillow underneath the left side is there to offer support to those ribs, and so that we can really feel some space and some elongation in that right side of the knee. I like to do this early on, because this part of our ribcage, this lateral wall of our ribcage, tends to mirror what's happening in the lateral wall of our pelvic floor. And it's usually kind of that tricky part of that pelvic floor to access. And so we can access it indirectly via mobilizing these ribs. Sometimes it'll feel like a brick wall in there, like you can't get a deep breath. And that's okay. We're going to just go slow, slowly building our tolerance of that. And then you might be starting to feel like your left abdominals are getting a little tired from holding that position. Good. And then let's flip over to the other side, and let's just compare how that feels in our body. Sometimes a cool little self-experiment. I press that right hip down. I'm reaching that left hip away from my body. And it doesn't feel so bad, right? It doesn't feel so tight over there. or maybe it does, and that's good too. That's good data too. We're feeling that elongation, maybe we're reaching overhead. Can we feel that same openness on this side versus the other? Let's do one more good breath here. Yeah, just making all the space and all the different parts of our rib cage. Good. Okay. So then let's roll back onto our backs just for a moment. Let's just notice where we are on the mat. In my own system, I can pretty much tell by just laying flat and noticing like, oh, okay, now I'm in contact with the floor. I don't have to work hard at that. Now when I breathe in, I can feel that expansion happening in areas that maybe didn't feel like they could expand before. And so before we start talking too much about can we feel this pelvic floor move, to me, what's more important is can we feel all of this ribcage move? Because if we can feel all this ribcage move, we're going to be so much less frustrated by our pelvic floor, right? When we're frustrated by its inability to contract or its inability to relax, we're frustrated because it's just operating in a system that's not allowing that to happen. And so when we kind of take our attention away from those pelvic floor muscles, focus on creating space in areas that need space or areas that need mobilization, then our pelvic floor is able to better respond. So if you liked the knees to chest, go ahead and just take a few breaths with your knees to chest. If you preferred the sort of child pose position, go ahead and try those out. If you were kind of like, I'm not sure I felt anything in either of those positions, yeah, just go ahead and pick one. I'd say sometimes the child's pose or the elbows down. And then I just want you to compare how that feels now compared to how that felt the first time we got into that position. So I'm going to come down. Ooh. And it should feel like, hopefully, that there's now a whole lot more movement and space and expansion in this back body and down maybe into those back pockets. We're not forcing it. We're just trying to create some awareness there. Good. So then throughout the day, today, or till Wednesday, that's what homework is going to become, right? Our homework is going to become, can we just occasionally throughout the day, not every single breath, not all the time, because we don't breathe that deeply all the time. But what I want you to be able to check in throughout the day is, where am I, right? What is my body doing? How am I breathing? Am I completely closed down in my back? Am I completely closed down in my butt? And where is that breath going? And can I then, maybe just for a breath or two, create a little bit of space in the back, maybe create a little bit of space in my sides. And so that could be as simple as I'm sitting, I'm sitting doing some work, or I'm working at the kitchen counter. Can I just press my hands into my desk or bring my elbows onto my desk? And just take a few breaths there. Can I, if I'm standing at the kitchen counter, right? Can I just bring my hands onto the counter and bend my knees and open my back just a little bit, and bring some attention to, yeah, what are our patterns or our preferences for holding onto that tightness and gripping? I think so many of us don't realize how often we're kind of tight in that mid back, we're tight in those back pockets, and we're holding onto that all day long. And so now having access, created a little bit of access to some different expansion, we want to just see, can we just occasionally through the day interrupt our patterns of holding so that we can come back to a place that's a little bit more chill. And again, you don't need to breathe like that every single breath. You don't need to notice your pelvic floor moving with every single breath that you do throughout the day. But when we bring our attention to it, that's where we want to start to go towards. Beautiful. Any questions about any of that stuff? Cool. So some simple movements of today. Again, trying to see, is there one that your body connected with in particular? And if there's one that your body connected with in particular, that will be the one that I would focus in on. Don't feel like you have to focus in on all of the things that we tried, but seeing, ooh, I really liked bringing my knees to my chest, or I really liked reaching my arms, or I really liked being with my elbows down. And then that can be your one that you use throughout until Wednesday, and you start to explore a little bit more. Cool. Awesome. Any questions about any of that from anybody? Feels good? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Okay. All right. Awesome. Well, have a great rest of your day, everybody. And we will see you on Wednesday morning. All right. Bye-bye.